I got a question about chapter 11, page 22, and on the acquisitions. You got this quote. I recommend you think of strategic acquisitions not as the strategy itself, but as a means of achieving or accelerating your overall strategy. This may seem like semantics, but the distinction is important. One mega successful M&A executive put it well when he said, our acquisitions don't dictate our strategy dictates what we acquire. Can you give me an example of what there is a slight distinction in the semantics, but I'm trying to understand where you're coming from, the story or the narrative, why you added that.
Yeah. And let me just, I'll share the narrative and the source of that company, which is the person that, the two people that provided those quotes both hail from a highly, highly successful, prolific buy and build story where they've grown equity value many, many times over the last 10 years. So I can provide a little of that story in a moment, but I think it's important. This idea of strategy and this word strategy gets used a lot and kind of thrown around. But I like to define it a little more specifically, which will set the stage for how this interplay between acquisition strategy and company strategy really works. But to my mind, strategy, and I'll borrow from the book Play to Win on this. It's a great book by A.G. Lafley and Roger Martin. And they say that strategy is really answering, they have 4 questions, but I kind of boil it down to 3. What is our winning aspiration as a business? Where are we going to play? And how are we going to win? And here we're talking about your company strategy, not an acquisition strategy, but your company strategy. What is our winning aspiration? Where are we going to play? And how are we going to win? And I offer that framing because, in the course of figuring out where we're going to play, you're oftentimes defining the answer to that question by the markets, the geographies we're going to play in, the segments, the product categories, the use cases. So getting really clear on that in your strategic rationale for where are you choosing to play and making really clear choices about that and why, step 1. Then step 2 is where the acquisition strategy fits in, which is to say, where could buying instead of building or partnering, where could buying another company accelerate our entry into or enhance our positioning within one of those where are we going to play areas? But it never quite made sense to me to do that in the inverse, to declare that, hey, buying things is going to be our strategy, which begs a question of like, well, what are you buying? Where are you buying? And why? Like that seems to be an enabler of a strategy, not a, strategy in and of itself. If we look at strategy through
let me give you an example of the why that's kind of questionable, because I do talk to a lot of buyers. They're not private equity buyers. And it's the first acquisition is like the hardest. It's like the virgin, and you're trying to get over to talking to the girl, and it's just like, okay, that wasn't as bad as things, but I should have tried somebody else. And she's going to be dating somebody else, or she's going to go somewhere else. And it's just like buying a company. Oh man, I want that company. Well, I didn't get it. I got outbid. So I'm settling with this company. I mean, that's you do try to go after the strategy on that, but the alternate is some other company that you didn't have your first set or your eyes on.
I think that's an important point, because whether you are an independent person trying to buy companies or you're a private equity firm trying to buy companies, with the intense competition that there is in the marketplace, like you said, Dan, and the money that's out there, you're going to have to create a different strategy than to just go after everyone. Because, my little firm is, if it tries to buy a company and, LLR comes in and they're also bidding for the company, I can't win that war. There's no way I can win that war. So we've taken the strategy to go for lower middle market and sort of group 3 or 4 companies together to make a platform company, which is harder. It's more work. And sometimes it's less money, but more money, but it's the way to get a deal done instead of spending 3 years, pitching 5 deals that you never get. And I think that I'd like to hear how you feel about that and what your experience is with talking to people that are doing that, because there's a lot of people doing that right now because there's too much dry powder and there's too much competition for the true middle market, 3 million EBITDA and above kind of deals.
Yeah.
I think that's a totally fair point. I mean, you're highlighting the realities that buyers are experiencing and navigating today. And just to say it, for the, if we were to sit here and draw up the scorecard for paint the picture of the ideal acquisition candidate, 100% recurring revenue and a 15% growing all that kind of stuff. That'd be great. And, you're going to have you're going to have buyers lining up down the street for that asset. And so for that business. And so we're just having to get more creative about where we're looking, the deals we're going to take swings on, having to relax some of our criteria. And there's, of course, a balance here between remaining a disciplined investor and also thinking creatively about how could we make this deal work. And that's a delicate balance to strike, of course. But I think this isn't a backdoor way of making a pitch for this book, but it is to say that in order to get creative on deals and, buy some things that may not fit your profile tightly, you have to be confident in your ability to do something with those businesses once you own them.
Thanks for watching this video. Make sure you're a subscriber by clicking on this button right here down below. And if you want to watch more serial acquirer interviews, click on this button right here. If you're ready to buy your first business, get my course at dealflowsystem.net right here. Take care. Cheers, John.